ZelooperZ is a Detroit-based rapper who has gone pretty overlooked and perhaps even underrated over the past however many years he's been around. He's on the Bruiser Brigade. Can't even speak. He's on the Bruiser Brigade record label, which you may know is affiliated with Danny Brown. Of course, a very beloved experimental hip-hop artist that people have been hyping up for many years for good reason. Danny Brown is a very, very good artist. I don't need to tell you that. Very creative, very unique, and I feel as though he may have even rubbed off on ZelooperZ, not in a sexual way. I know that sounded pretty bad, but I think his style perhaps has influenced ZelooperZ in some kind of way. It certainly feels like this is going to be the ZelooperZ album that gives him a bit of clout, a bit of credit, perhaps even critical acclaim, that kind of stuff, attention from the music nerds. Just with the album title and the album cover, there's something about it that feels very fresh and unique and feels like it's going to separate himself from his contemporaries. Pairing that with the music, yeah, I think we have a potential hip-hop cult classic of 2021 on our hands here. Maybe not, you know, a future classic, I'm not going to go as far as saying that, but I think a cult classic for the year of 2021 in hip-hop. Mainly why I wanted to talk about it, because I haven't seen anyone else talk about it yet. The opening track is a big what the fuck moment for me. Battery has a beat that I cannot really describe. ZelooperZ is immediately just giving off this very eccentric and bizarre delivery that just works with this instrumental, and I think you'd struggle to find many artists that can make these kinds of beats work with their rapping style. It's not an easy thing to do. Paranormal Snaptivity has what you'd probably expect in regards to the lyrics, which are quite horrorcore inspired, pretty ruthless at points as well. The gong repeating in the instrumental is just very eerie and bizarre as well. I'm probably going to keep using the word bizarre because I feel like that's the best way to describe some of the instrumentals that they've managed to come up with here. As much as I do want to throw heaps of praise on this track for how unique it sounds, I feel like it could actually go a bit further and go beyond than just that repeated gong that comes up over and over again. I feel like the track could develop instrumentally, and I'd probably say that about a fair few of these tracks actually. It feels like we could see some cool beat switches popping up or developments in the beats that would take these tracks to a new level, and a lot of them don't do that, which I think could be fine for some people, but I think for me, I would prefer that. Ticking Time Bomb is a very off-kilter beat once again, just very strange and elusive and mysterious, all of the strange things you can imagine, but it works again. ZelooperZ is really carving out a lane for himself with this album with these kinds of beats. I mean, if you're big on beats in hip-hop, you'd be crazy to miss this, because I think there are some very, very creative ideas that are being thrown around here. Each and Every Moment has one of the best deliveries from ZelooperZ across this entire thing. I mean, that boisterous animated voice that comes through, it doesn't always shine as much as it does on this one. He's very eccentric, like I've already said, but I think this is one of the best tracks to really go ham with his voice. It just really elevates and sounds great. The pots and pans mechanic beats, which is very mechanical and once again quite odd, could give you a bit of an earache, but I actually think it really works, and you wouldn't usually say that about that kind of beat really, but I could definitely imagine like MF Doom rapping over this. Again, that kind of strange off-kilter approach that you'd hear from any given, you know, experimental rapper. I've already mentioned Danny Brown and the affiliation with ZelooperZ. He makes his own contribution on this album here with a very memorable verse. I cannot believe he rides this instrumental, and not only that, but I cannot believe this instrumental exists. Bandicoon is exactly what you think. It is in fact Crash Bandicoot. There are no words. When I first heard this, I just laughed. I couldn't believe this exists. another what the hell moment for an album that is filled with many moments like that. Yeah, I'm baffled. I can't believe this. And Danny gives one of the most impressive verses of the year, mostly because I just don't know how you can rap over this. How? He rides it so effortlessly. Some of the lines that ZelooperZ throws out as well, absolutely bonkers and mad, where he says, she sucked my sack. Let me read it though, I've got it written here, man. She sucked my sack and I nut on her dashboard. There are many other lines that are thrown out across this album actually. I like when he throws out the line, I'd rather chill with my bitch watching Wonder Woman on Crying in the Club. It's not one of the best tracks though, Crying in the Club. I actually thought it was a bit more low-key, and it's interesting as well because there are some surprisingly softer moments that I think we're probably trying to break the gaps, I think, or break the momentum just because of the intense moments that are a bit baffling. It is a shame that tracks like that do end up being some of the weakest ones, though, like Don't Leave just feels a bit like filler. I feel like this track just isn't great in terms of the vocals. I think maybe he was just trying to do something a bit different, which makes it end up feeling like a filler moment, which it shouldn't do really. It should be an interesting moment that provides something unique, but it's just so repetitive and goes on for a bit long actually. A lot of these tracks just stay at about 2 minutes, and this is quite an obvious standout in a bit of a bad way, this track, because it goes on for like 3.5 minutes and it's not very enjoyable. I think as well with the fact that you're spoilt with just the mad moments like Bash Bandicoon, which is a track that I just don't think any other artist is going to be able to replicate this year, honestly. Then some of the moments like Don't Leave just do stand out in a bit of a, Dedicated My Life has a kind of like abstracty hip-hop instrumental. Could totally imagine like Earl doing something like this, maybe even Mike. Like the way that there are creative moments coming through, you know, offering something very different, and this is a good example of that. And Satellites closes the album, and a great instrumental that I think could be longer. It's one of those moments where it's like, you've got Don't Leave, that's one of the longer tracks, but why can't Satellites be longer when the instrumental sounds as good as it does? Overall though, like, I'm really impressed with this. I think I think each track offers something quite unique from the previous track. Not every track blows me away. I was spoiled in the first half because I think that is where some of the mental moments come through and the super impressive moments shine as well. But I think by the end you get some of the weaker tracks coming through, so it does sour the album overall. But I don't know, I think this could grow on me. Maybe I'll get used to some of those moments that I wasn't as impressed with, and I think this album could offer me something that the Khalil Blue album offered last year, where it's just short, snappy tracks, catchy, creative instrumentals and catchy flows, catchy hooks. This album doesn't really have those catchy hooks, but it has that replay value, I feel, where you're going to go back to each song and just find something new that makes you go, whoa. So yeah, I definitely think that comparison to Khalil Blue is quite apt with the way the album's structured and the way it flows. Even still, it's its own thing, and it's very good in its own right anyway. And like I say, for the hip-hop nerds out there, you're going to want to listen to this just for how impressive these instrumentals are. It's a good moment for this year in hip-hop, I think. I think there needs to be more albums like this that offer that kind of wow factor, and this is definitely going to be one of them for the year. 7 out of 10 from me, definitely really impressive and worth your time. Thank you for watching this review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you have a good day as well. Subscribe if you have not already. Do have a good day. Goodbye.